Welcome into the Talkin' Tide podcast on the Reier on YouTube channel. I'm Chase Goodbread, the sports columnist with the Tuscaloosa News, joined as always by Travis Reier. Be sure to check out Reier on YouTube. Super channel, lots of great content there. Like it, subscribe to it, hit that notification bell, get alerts anytime something's happening on Reier on YouTube, including the Talkin' Tide podcast coming at you twice weekly during the football season. Sunday nighters, post-game, Wednesday nighters pregame, and of course we're convening now, Travis, to take a look ahead at the Crimson Tide's upcoming road SEC game at South Carolina. Alabama looking to move to 5-0 in the league against a South Carolina team that's frankly disappointed based on expectations. This was supposed to be a pretty damn good South Carolina team. It has not been what fans were hoping. Nevertheless, it's a road environment in the SEC. It's a place that gets awfully loud when the home team gets on top. So it could be challenging for Kalen DeBoer and his boys.
Yeah, and you see our header or sub-header down there at the bottom of the screen. Trust level in Tide as double-digit road favorite. Because we've heard that before, right? And look, it feels like Alabama exercised some demons in road wins at Georgia, at Missouri. But this could also be some parallels drawn to Oklahoma last year because South Carolina offensively is horrid right now. But Oklahoma wasn't Barry Switzer in the 80s, Oklahoma, on offense when Alabama went out to Norman last November either. That being said, it feels like this team is much more trustworthy. You're hearing all the right things. More importantly, you're seeing more and more of the right things. So the expectation is to go on a business trip, take care of business against an inferior opponent. You said it, South Carolina, really, since getting off to that 2-0 start, they got Diego'd at home in week 3, got thumped. Lenore Sellers went out in that game. I think in the second quarter, it was ugly, and it's been ugly ever since for Shane Beamer's team.
Yeah, there was some talk about Lenore Sellers maybe being a Heisman candidate in the preseason, and it has not worked out at all for him. I think largely due to a South Carolina offensive line that's been awful. Shane Beamer has already canned an offensive line coach mid-season. You don't see that too often. But if you look at that South Carolina schedule, you noted a couple of these games. They got hammered by Vanderbilt. That final score was 31-7. That was their SEC opener back in mid-September, and that was at home for South Carolina. And then from there, they lose at Missouri. They beat Kentucky handily at home. They lose by 10 to LSU on the road, and then, of course, just got drummed by Oklahoma at home, 26-7. Beat Virginia Tech 24-11 to open the season. So certainly things got off to a good start, Travis. But 1-3 in the SEC now, and 1-4 in the SEC now, and likely headed to 1-5 the way Alabama's playing.
Unknown Damone, your guy, chimes in here in the show chat. And by the way, Deborah, C. Bama, Unknown Damone, good to hear from you folks as we get going on a Wednesday night. Unknown Damone says Steven Garcia ain't walking through that door on Saturday. He's got Bama 41-24. Man, if this USC offense scores 24, there might be some gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
Goodbread, although Bakari Swain is a hell of a punt returner. He's returned 3 punts for touchdowns. Now, all 3 of those were in the first 2 games. He hasn't done it since. But maybe your guy UD is anticipating some special teams here.
Well, Shane, whether South Carolina is good or not, they're a threat on special teams. They've been that way ever since Shane Beamer got there. On top of those 3 punt returns for touchdowns you've mentioned, they've also got 1 punt block on the season. So South Carolina's capable, certainly, of flipping special teams into 7 points somehow. They always have a knack for it with Shane Beamer. They're aggressive when it comes to blocking kicks, etc. So Yeah, in a 41-24 game, I could see South Carolina getting 7 points somehow out of special teams. But you're right. As bad as their offense has been of late, I'd be surprised if they got that much on Alabama.
Good evening to you too, Beth, as you check in here on Talkin' Tide. Yeah, Beamer ball, man. I mean, Pappy Beamer really established all that at Virginia Tech with the special teams and making such a big time impact in that phase of the game. And I think for South Carolina to win this game, it's going to take something non-offensive, whether it's defensively, special teams, Alabama being something it hasn't been all year, which is upside down really in turnover margin, been really good in that regard. South Carolina, I think, is +4 in turnover margin. So they're on the right side of that. Alabama, though, +9, I think. So those are the type of areas where I think you're going to have to see South Carolina have a pretty decisive edge if they're going to win this game, even playing at home.
Yeah, Alabama's really taking care of the football well this year. Only 3 turnovers on the season for the Crimson Tide. A Ty Simpson interception. He's only had 1 of those against 18 touchdown passes, 2 fumbles, 1 against Missouri that I think was pretty much on Simpson. And then the other probably, I don't think that was on Simpson, the Tennessee fumble. I mean, he's in his throwing motion and got bumped from behind. So that ball is going to come out on anybody. But that's it for Alabama turnover-wise. So 3 turnovers on the year, not more than 1 in any game. Mm-hmm. And they forced a dozen for a margin of +9 on the year. So can't ask for better than that. Alabama right now is ranked number 3 in the country out of 130+ teams in turnover margin at plus 1.29 per game. So yeah, that's a huge factor on the road too, because when you're playing in one of these SEC stadiums on the road, maybe you get behind by 7 and you cough up a turnover. I mean, that'll keep the crowd revved for another quarter at least, that alone.
Yeah, we talked about this on the Sunday night show a few days ago about Alabama's success offensively early in games to open games and then closing out the first half with a boom. And it was the defense that actually did the scoring against Tennessee to close out that second quarter last Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. But, you know, it's an Alabama offense that can go a long way if it does get the football first or gets the football after maybe Alabama defensively gets a stop. You can put a damper on this already sort of solemn crowd going into this if you're able to continue that trend. And it's a South Carolina defense, some familiar names over there, some former Alabama guys, Sean Murphy, Michael Goodwine, Justin Okoronkwo, the linebacker. Right. I actually didn't like seeing Okoronkwo go. I thought he was a young guy with still a lot of potential. You know, he's from Germany, so you could tell he was still trying to figure out maybe some of the nuances of college football. But one thing he never had a problem with was getting downhill and bringing the wood whenever he got an opportunity, whether it was defense, special teams, et cetera. But those are some names that'll probably be a little familiar to Alabama fans Saturday.
No doubt. I liked him. I liked him as well. A name to watch on defense for South Carolina, and South Carolina's defense isn't bad. Dylan Stewart, the edge rusher, really a problematic guy, a guy who's disruptive, a penetrator. He's got 3.5 sacks on the year, so that's not a huge number. He missed most of last week's game against Oklahoma with a hip injury, although Shane Beamer expects him to be ready to go against Alabama. But I took a look at his snaps by position, Travis, and usually with these big time edge rushers, you see them move around and they get action on both sides. They'll take some shot. They'll take a run at the left tackle for a while. Depending on the defense, the situation, where the ball's spotted, whatever, they'll go over to the right side. They'll move around. He really doesn't move around. He stays on that left side for the defense, which puts him over the right side of the offensive line. And so now that means that Wilkin Formby Michael Carroll platoon is going to be staring at Stewart all day long. He's not going to be over. He's not going to be over on Caden Proctor.
Now, kind of like Will Anderson was at Alabama, you could pretty much count on where Will was going to line up. It didn't matter a lot of times because he was still going to get his. But they've got another guy in Brian Thomas Jr., I guess, is that other edge between he and Stewart. That's 7.5 sacks. They haven't been as prolific in that area as you might have expected. But to your point, defensively, they've been good enough in a lot of games for South Carolina to have a better record than they did. I mean, the LSU loss, they lose by 10, give up 20 points. I think LSU, in terms of touchdown conversion rate in the red zone, was 1 of 5. So, they did a good job situationally in some of these things. But I think in terms of pass defense, I think that secondary isn't bad either. I think they have 8 interceptions on the season as a defense. So they're capable of taking the ball away. And if Stewart is good to go and really feeling it, he can be very problematic for those tackles on Saturday.
Something to watch for with Ty Simpson, no doubt about it. Travis, the Alabama quarterback, just continues to play well. Serious threat for the Heisman Trophy at this point. His numbers, the touchdown to interception ratio, 18-1, is really what stands out about his numbers right now. He's not going to throw for 1 million yards like you might see some of these other quarterbacks in other systems, but he's playing so efficiently right now. He's making good reads, good decisions. I think he's doing a really good job pre-snap of recognizing what's going on, maybe taking advantage of some of the pre-snap motion to recognize, all right, am I looking at man? Am I looking at zone? What am I looking at defensively? He's playing like a guy who started for 2 years, not a guy who started for half a season. And you can't, if you're Alabama, you got to love that on the road. Just being able to count on him from a poise standpoint.
Yeah, that's huge. And it wasn't as evident against Florida State. I didn't think he was awful against Florida State in that regard. I think if anything, he was trying to do too much. I don't think that it was too big for him, Yeah. And at times he didn't trust maybe himself throwing the football enough, but whatever teaching tape they got from that Florida State game, and Ryan Grubb obviously made good use of it, because from that point forward, some of those throws, maybe more so in the middle of the field, that he wasn't as willing to sort of cut loose with, he's been more than willing to do it. And they continue to eat up opposing defenses. And, it'll be interesting too, from a run game perspective, what they're able to muster in this game. South Carolina, not great on third downs either. South Carolina offensively is horrible on third down, or has been. And they've made up for it, Chase, by not being very good defensively on third down. So,
right.
Alabama's been pretty good, pretty efficient in that area, really on both sides of the ball, but especially on offense.
Injury-wise for Alabama, the injury report has come out for this game. No real surprises for the Crimson Tide. Quay Russaw, as expected, will miss another game. He's got a lower extremity injury that is going to keep him out indefinitely. But Danny Lewis, tight end, not on the injury report, so he's ready to go. Same with Derek Meadows. Good to see that, Travis, after the shot he took at Missouri.
Brutal. That was a brutal shot. That's why I was as surprised as I was that Jam was good to go against Tennessee and actually started, but probably to an even higher degree, the hit that Meadows took, it just looked like he was out before he, hit the field. So good to see him back. And look, they've shown early in games, they've been more than willing to put him out there. And, that rotation is kind of like some other spots on this football team, been pretty extensive.
Offensively elsewhere for Alabama, Travis, I think it's a big game for Ryan Williams, just in terms of putting a couple of games back to back. As a major consistency has been an issue with Williams, partly due to injuries this season, not all his fault. But I do think this Alabama offense needs Williams to at least be a 5 for 75 kind of guy production wise, not necessarily crazy numbers like we know he could put up occasionally. He could throw up a 160 on you. But what Alabama doesn't need out of Ryan Williams down the stretch is the 2 for 20s that he's kind of thrown out there every once in a while if he's played at all.
Well, right. To your point, Missouri, he takes the bagel on the road game in Como, and then comes back against Tennessee, and that looked like the Ryan Williams we saw a year ago. So between he and Jeremy Bernard, understanding Isaiah Horton is important. Lottie Brooks is obviously important. Week in and week out, you would like to see that combination of Bernard and Williams kind of be where they need to be on a consistent basis. And again, I get back to the run game. Oklahoma doesn't run the ball very well either. John Mateer, quarterback's kind of their guy, even in the run game, but they had some success on the ground last week against this South Carolina defense. So I'm not anticipating or expecting Alabama to run for 300 yards this week, because I don't think they're ever going to run the ball enough to do that probably in their offense. But to have a chance to be north of 150 or something like that, I don't think that's all that unrealistic.
I asked Ryan Grubb at the top of the week about Daniel Hill and whether we'll see more of him, and he looked right at me and said, "Yeah, I see his role expanding." So, and he
Ryan Grubb's the best, man.
Yeah,
I mean, he is so high on the have a beer with list. He just keeps going up. Goodbread. He just keeps going up.
Yeah,
he'll talk to you in a press conference like you're, elbows up to him at Baumhauer's or something.
He's candid. I do like it. It. He's candid. If you toss him a softball, sometimes he'll slap the softball, right? But if you throw him a fastball, sometimes he'll.
It's like Monday, and he's saying, "Oh yeah." Now there's the other side of that. Maybe he's putting it out there to put it out there, but I don't think so, because typically what we've seen from him in retrospect after exchanges like that is that pretty much what it's Nate Oates-ish in a way, isn't it?
That's a great parallel, no doubt. I mean, the week before, he said Michael Carroll's on the brink of being an everyday guy, and then the very night, and then 5-6 days later, he gets his first career start against Tennessee. Now, the snap split between Formby and Carroll actually against Tennessee turned out to be what it's usually been, with Formby seeing more action than Carroll. But they did drop him in there for that first career start.
They did. And that tells me the practice week matters, right? You are being evaluated throughout the practice week. And Michael Carroll, probably more so than anything Wilkin Formby hasn't done. It's been Carroll just continuing to ascend. And so you'll tune in Saturday at 2:30 Central just to see which 5 are out there, right? I mean, what do we expect this week, Chase? Between the guards and right tackle and those situations.
Jaden Roberts made his first start of the year against the Vols. So anything can happen up front. It looks like things are evolving in the backfield a little bit to where Daniel Hill is going to get some more action. Maybe he starts to see more action than I guess the last week or two he has seen more action than Kevin Riley. So things are moving in the backfield.
Well, again, it tells you even in season, this staff is evaluating week to week, day to day, practice to practice, and they've got, I think, some complementary guys at these different positions. Running back being one of them. Yeah. You look at the physical makeup even of the top 3 backs right now. They're all pretty different. So depending on the opponent, the type of defensive scheme maybe they're going against, or the plan in general, that is one benefit. They don't have a dominant, top guy right now at the running back position, but they do have some different type of options that they can work in there.
Alabama's defense, Travis, let's go ahead and jump on that really quickly. I thought with the exception of the run defense, which we noted Sunday night kind of got gashed against Tennessee, overall, you got to give Alabama a high grade defensively against the Vols. They only gave up 20 points to one of the best offenses in the league. South Carolina, of course, nowhere near that as much as they've struggled offensively. So you'd expect Kane Womack's side to get the job done in this one, although Lenora Sellers, he still scares you because he's so athletic. He's big, too. He can break tackles. A little KJ Jefferson-ish, I suppose, in that regard. And hadn't thrown the ball great. He's only got 5 touchdown passes on the year. But when he gets his legs moving, look out. And not to mention, mobile quarterbacks have had a relatively easy time getting outside and doing some damage on the ground against Alabama's defense.
Yeah, Alabama actually did a pretty good job on him last year in Tuscaloosa. I think it was 16 carries for 19 yards. Now, sacks are factored into that, as we know, in collegiate rushing numbers. And I do like the KJ Jefferson comp. I was going to go David Garrard, but that's really going back in the time machine. That's going back to, the 90s with go ahead.
ECU Pirates.
Yeah, the ECU Pirates. And Alabama got a taste of that, I think, in Birmingham, as a matter of fact. Big David Garrard. And then went on, of course, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But no, he's a challenge. The problem is they just don't really have anyone to go along with him. I think it was Rocket Sanders last year. You know, that they had a couple of backs last year that were formidable. This year, it goes back to the offensive line too. As you said, we've already seen a change made staff-wise. Sean Elliott, the longtime college assistant previously at South Carolina under Steve Spurrier, and then Sean Elliott left a head coaching job at Georgia State to come back to South Carolina. Now he's overseeing that offensive line along with the tight ends and run game coordination. But that's the 16th ranked rushing offense in South Carolina, that Alabama. And that's the thing, Alabama's had their struggles against the run, but you look at what's coming up on the schedule. South Carolina hasn't run the ball well at all. LSU is down in the 14-15 range in the SEC in rushing. Oklahoma hasn't been great running the football. Auburn's been middle of the pack, I think. So maybe this Alabama defense has actually weathered the storm in terms of the better rushing offenses that they're going to see in the regular season anyway.
Yeah, overall, no doubt you make a good point about the rushing offenses. Overall, the offenses left on Alabama's schedule don't match up to the defenses, right? There's more of a challenge for Ryan Grubb down the stretch than there is Kane Womack.
And you'll take that.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah.
I like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the bottom line, like, you said earlier, points. And however Alabama gets there defensively, no one should really care. If they keep people around 17 to 20 points with this offense, they should be in great shape week in and week out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the Talkin' Tide podcast, moving on here on the Reier on YouTube channel. I want to ask our viewers and listeners to please donate to Parker Covers Alabama at parkercoversalabama.com, a 501c3 nonprofit supporting wheelchaired residents of the state of Alabama. We honor Mike Parker, our old friend, with this charity, and we would appreciate any support from that. Talkin' Tide on the Reier on YouTube channel. Travis, moving on, a look at the SEC upcomings and goings. It's going to be only two SEC teams are going to be idle this coming week, so there's quite a bit of action. Let's start with OU and wait a minute. Hang on. I'm on the wrong week here. Get this straight here.
OU is about to play South Carolina again?
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. How about OU hosting Ole Miss? 2-6-1 squad and an 11 a.m. kick. What about that? What about 2 6-1ers going at 11 in the morning for you? That's a good lid lifter for you?
Well, I'll tell you who doesn't like it, who's tired of that, is the Big Ten. No, Kiffin is one. But the Big Ten is like Billy Bats in Goodfellas.
Right.
That's my potty. Ruin my potty. And the SEC has just been consistently putting big time games in that. And it's not just noon. I mean, you look at it again this week from noon to midnight, the SEC in every window has dynamite type of matchups.
Yeah.
No, when we were younger and it was the JP game or what, Jefferson Pilot, whatever it was more likely to be Kentucky Vandy or something, in that early kick. But the league is at a point now, especially with the depth of it this year. Boy, and it goes back to when you add Oklahoma and Texas, every window has a chance to be premium. And that's what it's going to be. What about Lane, too? Throwing it out there first thing this week about Brent Venables and OU videoing signs and stealing signs.
Yeah.
And telling Freeze, you need to change your signs, bro. Because I think OU had everything you were sending in there.
Fantastic.
So I wonder if you're Alabama, you are thinking the same thing, because it felt that way in Norman last year, with that Oklahoma defense going against that Alabama offense.
Might be a good question for Kalen DeBoer the week of that OU game.
And you remember the national championship game, Clemson and Alabama in Santa Clara. And Clemson early in the game jumps a damn hitch, for a pick six. It's like they knew what was coming. So, and that was still Venables when he was at Clemson. So, boy, Lane, he doesn't hesitate. That's a pretty tough 2-game stretch too, right? For Ole Miss, Athens, and then you go to Norman the next week.
You go to Norman. Yeah, that's a tough go. I used it. Speaking of that old Jefferson Pilot / Lincoln Financial early SEC game, I used to love my guy Dave Rowe, the way he would sell that. He would come on the broadcast bright and early at 11 a.m. and he'd say, Dudley Field is the place to be in the SEC this week. Yeah. I mean, he was all about it. He loved,
Well, and back in those days, we were probably coming off a hard Friday night, so all that energy was not received well.
No. No. And he'd have to maintain, if the score was, 31-7 in the third quarter, he'd try to maintain it the best he could on that JP game.
This one isn't over yet. Crazier things have happened,
All right, let me scatter shot the rest of these games, and you just jump on the one that attracts you the most. Auburn will be at Arkansas, Missouri will be at Vanderbilt, Texas at Mississippi State, A&M at LSU, and Tennessee at Kentucky.
Wow. Give me I'm struggling with this one. You hit me with yours.
I'm anxious to see what Missouri does in Nashville, right?
That was the one I was leaning towards, and I see where it's a sellout again in Nashville. And this time, when you sell out for Missouri that's a Vanderbilt sellout. Now, like LSU, Bama, Auburn, Tennessee, when they go to Vandy, you go, well, it's probably at least 50-50.
Right.
But to sell out for Missouri, that tells you the passion right now that area has for the Vanderbilt Commodores. I mean, I'm seeing like B-list celebrities on the sideline at Vanderbilt games. It's not A-list.
Right.
But for Vandy to even have B-list sort of celebrities on the sideline, that's saying something about where they're at.
Vanderbilt favored by 2.5 in that one. The over-under is 51.5. This will be 2 weeks in a row that Vanderbilt's been favored in an SEC game. And last week, when they were favored over LSU, that was the first time they'd been favored in an SEC game since 1978, Travis.
Unreal. And they taught me a lesson last week, because I liked LSU and the points in that game. And Vanderbilt was clearly the better team. And so, it'll be interesting this week, because Prabula for Missouri, I thought he did a pretty nice job on the road at Auburn last week. They still were stagnant and had their stretches where they weren't very good offensively, but he made some plays when he had to, but he's going to have to make more of them, I think, this week. And I still think Missouri's defense can match up pretty well with Vanderbilt with the way they play. That should be a fun game for sure.
Missouri's got a couple of really athletic edge rushers on the defensive line. The one thing I noticed about those two guys against Alabama, though, and I couldn't tell you if this has been an issue all year, I thought Alabama's offensive tackles were able to push them too high in the pocket. Like they would get a little too wide. And, Nick Saban always used to say, if you get pushed past the quarterback, you're out of the play. I saw a good bit of that from those Missouri edge rushers. Be interesting to see if they can bend the corner a little tighter on Vanderbilt.
And some of those guys, that's just what they are, speed guys. They don't have – what's your counter, right? If you can't win with speed, can you win with power? Do you have a counter to your speed? And, a lot of times in college football, that's what you see, kind of one-trick ponies in the pass rush.
I think Auburn at Arkansas is an intriguing matchup, Travis. You're talking about an Arkansas team that's all offense at home against an Auburn team that's all defense on the road. Defense travels. You would expect Auburn to be able to go to Arkansas and play some pretty good defense. But, man, that Auburn offense can sputter so much, and Taylor Green is he's so dangerous. Arkansas is laying 2.5. I think I like the Hogs there.
That's a tough one for me because the strength, it's good on good and then bad on bad. I mean, when you talk about Arkansas's offense against Auburn's defense and then Auburn's offense against that Arkansas defense, it's rough. But I would lean Petrino and the Hogs. They lost by 3 to Tennessee, lost by 3 to A&M last week. Now, they scored really late last week to make that a 3-point game, but they were competitive throughout the game with a top 5 team. This is big, I think, for Bobby Petrino if he's going to have a chance to be the permanent guy, which I think he should be. As these vacancies continue to crop up that are better than the Arkansas job, it's going to push Arkansas down in terms of that wish list that I'm sure they have. Just go ahead and give him 5 years, give him a 5-year deal. Keep him off motorcycles. He'll be all right.
It's Jimmy Sexton's season.
Oh, wow.
It's Jimmy's season.
He might as well have a Santa suit on. He's kind of rotund.
Yeah.
He's kind of rotund like Santa. Everywhere he goes, like I saw him pregame at Ole Miss, Georgia last week, I guess, talking to Lane or something. He should already be in a Santa getup.
Or a pumpkin get up, at this time of year, and then just switch it to Santa after Halloween, maybe.
He could go as Phil Fulmer for trick or treat,
Making a lot of money. Texas A&M at LSU, an intriguing one too. Texas A&M, the last team in the league that's undefeated. They're 7-0. Are the Aggies? By the way, they just
like that game. Yeah.
On the road at LSU, they're favored by 2.5 on the road. Your thoughts on that one? Brian Kelly under a warm lamp in Baton Rouge right now.
See, I think that Arkansas is built in a way offensively that they could give A&M and that really good defense some trouble, which they did last week because Taylor Green and what he can do throwing it and running with it. And Arkansas low key can run the football against a lot of teams this year when you watch them. And Petrino, kind of under the radar, has always had a pretty good running game. Now, maybe you could say he's gotten away from it at times. But I'll go A&M in that game on the road just because I think A&M looks at this LSU offense and likes that matchup a lot better this week because Nussmeier doesn't give you as much to defend. That offensive line for LSU isn't great. And so if LSU can't give Nussmeier some help running the football, which they haven't really been able to do this year, that's a tough place to be against that A&M defense, I think.
A&M, by the way, Travis, I'm sure you saw the first school in the league to catch the new penalties on injury faking. They got fined $50K for a play against Arkansas last week. Mike Elko gets a reprimand. I think they got charged either a timeout or a penalty or both on that play. I guess it would have been one or the other. I think that's how they do it now.
You got a staffer over there screaming and doing this to the ground,
Yeah. Did you see that the official A&M response that they accepted the penalty but disagreed with the decision and said they will I'm paraphrasing here, but it was like, we'll evaluate our processes. Yeah.
It was a clerical error.
Yeah.
It was like Al Shervick. My arm, I think it's broken. It was that kind of injury.
Tyreek Chappell, the cornerback for Texas A&M, was caught doing that, responding to a staffer waving him down, I guess, from that Texas A&M sideline. So, well, you know what, though? I got to say, Travis, for this to not crop up until week 8 tells you that this new penalty structure has caught the attention of the coaches, does it not?
That, or they've just gotten better about, they're coaching guys before the game, and if we're in this situation, part of situational defense, just like if we're in 3rd and long, we're going to go to this package and these are the coverages. And okay, if we're, if they're in tempo and they've got us in a certain package we can't get out of because we can't sub, somebody's got it in, and we're trying to get to another package, somebody's got to go down.
Yeah.
It may be something they're doing during the week, prepping for that.
Interesting, for sure. Big week in the SEC. Looking forward to all this action. Looking forward to getting to Columbia. It's going to be, as I mentioned, a drive for me rather than a flight. So it'll be a lengthy Friday on the road going through Atlanta and losing that time zone hour. But we'll make it. We'll get there. And
I always liked it coming back, though, man. It's nice to get it get that hour back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we'll see. We'll see what we come home with. That's going to do it.
Yes, travels, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We will reconvene on Sunday night to recap this upcoming Alabama-South Carolina game. Until then, want to thank our viewers and listeners. Signing off here is Talkin' Tide on the Reier on YouTube channel.